Did you know there are stories about music so powerful, it seems to stretch across time itself, able to call forth spirits from the past and the future? But power like that can attract more than just memories. Sometimes it can call something far darker. Tonight, on the opening night of a small juke joint, a young blues musician will experience a night like no other, as something drawn by his music comes knocking on the door. Welcome back to Recap TV. Today, we're diving into the action drama horror film called Sinners from 2025. If you enjoy story recaps like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more recaps like this. Now get comfy and let's dive right into the story. We begin in Clarksdale, Mississippi, in October 1932, where a young and upcoming blues guitarist named Sammy Moore staggers toward a small church. His clothes are torn, claw marks run across his face, and in his hand, he clutches the broken neck of a guitar. Inside the church, his father, a strict pastor named Jedediah Moore, rushes to help him.
I want you to swear to me and before this congregation to leave those sinning ways where they lie.
He insists that Sammy must give up the blues and repent for his sinful ways. But Sammy says nothing. Instead, he holds the broken guitar neck tightly, as if it is the only thing keeping him grounded. The story then shifts back to the day before. Twin brothers Elijah Smoke Moore and Elias Stack Moore are returning back home after spending years in Chicago, working alongside organized criminals and making a large amount of money.
You boys twins?
Nah, we cousins.
They've returned with a plan to build a juke joint for the local black community and meet a landowner named Hogwood to arrange the purchase of an abandoned sawmill.
I thought y'all was dead set on buying the place. More time I spend with y'all, the less sure I am you boys are serious about it.
Ain't no boys here. I'm just grown men. With grown men money and grown men bullets.
It's implied that Hogwood has ties to the KKK, which creates tension in the room. Still, the brothers go through with the purchase and firmly warn Hogwood.
And if we see you or any one of your clan buddies cross our property line, we gonna kill them right where they stand.
Clan don't exist no more.
At the church, Jedediah tries to convince Sammy to help with an upcoming ceremony, but Sammy has other plans. It's revealed that he is the cousin of Stack and Smoke, and he tells his father that he'll be playing at their new bar tonight.
I want to be free of all this for a day. To play music, for drunkards. I'll be back in town for service in the morning.
Jedediah strongly disapproves of the idea, but reluctantly allows Sammy to go just as Stack and Smoke arrive to pick him up. Knowing time is short, and there is still plenty to prepare, the brothers decide to split up. Smoke heads into town to gather supplies for the evening, while Stack and Sammy set out to recruit workers who can help bring the place to life. At a local store, Smoke runs into two old friends, Grace and Bo, along with their daughter Lisa. He offers to pay them well to create a sign and gather supplies for the juke joint's opening night. The couple agrees, but when Smoke returns to his truck, he finds two men attempting to steal from it. Without a moment of hesitation, he pulls out his gun and fires, hitting one man in the rear and the other in the leg.
Terry, boy, how you been?
I was doing better before you shot me in the ass.
The message is unmistakable. He and his brother are not to be crossed. Meanwhile, Stack and Sammy arrive at the local train station in search of an older blues performer named Delta Slim, a seasoned musician known for his rough voice and heavy drinking. When Stack first offers him a job at the juke joint, Slim refuses. But once Stack promises that the pay will be good and that there will be plenty of beer waiting for him, Slim quickly changes his mind. To prove his talent, Slim performs a brief tune right there at the station. As the music fills the air, people nearby begin gathering to listen, making it clear exactly why Stack wanted him at the club. During this time, a woman named Mary approaches them. She is a childhood friend of the twins and once shared a romantic relationship with Stack. However, the reunion is not warm. Mary confronts them about failing to attend her mother's funeral, reminding them that the woman had treated them like family when they were younger. And although Stack tries to smooth things over, it is clear that old feelings remain unresolved. Nearby, Sammy meets a woman named Pearline, an unhappily married local resident who seems immediately intrigued by him. The two exchange flirtatious conversation, and Sammy invites her to attend the juke joint's opening later that night. Together, the men move on. They visit a plantation, where they ask a large man called Cornbread to act as security for the door.
No, I ain't got time for your scheming, Stack.
First he refuses, but hearing the brothers will pay a good amount, his mind changes, and he agrees. While Stack continues gathering people for the opening, Smoke makes a quiet visit to the grave of the infant daughter he lost years earlier. There, he reunites with his estranged wife, Annie. The loss of their child still weighs heavily on both of them.
You fool. All that war and whatever the hell he been doing in Chicago, and you back here in front of me.
Annie is known in the community for practicing hoodoo, using rituals and protective charms meant to shield people from harm. She tells Smoke that the charms she once gave him may have helped keep him alive during his dangerous years in Chicago. Smoke asks Annie if she will help at the juke joint that evening by cooking and serving drinks. At first she hesitates, but after a quiet moment between them, she eventually agrees. As the sun begins to sink lower in the sky, something else is making its way toward Clarksdale. A badly bruised Irish man named Remick pounds on the door of a farmhouse belonging to a married couple named Bert and Joan.
I thought I could trust them, but they tried to kill me.
Slow down.
Who's trying to kill you?
Choctaw.
He begs for help, claiming that a group of Choctaw Indians is chasing him through the countryside. Remick offers gold in exchange for protection, and the couple reluctantly allows him inside. Not long afterward, several Choctaw men arrive outside the house and warn Joan that the man she has taken in is dangerous. They try to convince her to let them deal with him, but Joan refuses to listen and forces them to leave at gunpoint. Joan returns inside the house, only to find it deadly silent now. She enters a room and finds a horrifying sight. Remick sits calmly, his mouth covered in blood, while Bert lies on the floor, bloody and lifeless.
Oh, he's just resting.
Moments later, Bert suddenly rises, but no longer as a human. Instead, Remick has turned him into something unnatural.
Hey, baby.
As darkness settles over Clarksdale, the abandoned sawmill is transformed into a lively juke joint. Lanterns glow against the rough wooden walls while music, laughter, and conversation fill the air. Members of the local black community arrive in large numbers, eager to celebrate the opening of a place built for them. Among the crowd sits Mary, who is quickly confronted by Stack, telling her she shouldn't be there. But Mary refuses to leave. The two argue briefly, and the tension between them soon turns emotional. Stack admits that he still loves her, but insists that she is better off staying away from him.
I just want to keep you someplace safe. And I was never going to be here. And I was never going to be with me.
Soon, Slim introduces Sammy to the stage, giving the young guitarist his first chance to perform in front of a large crowd. Nervous but determined, Sammy begins to play.
Well, I was just a boy, about 8 years old. You threw me a Bible.
The effect is immediate. The crowd comes to life, dancing and clapping to the rhythm Sammy creates. Delta Slim soon jumps in, and the room fills with a performance unlike anything they've ever seen. As Sammy continues playing, something unusual begins to happen. In a surreal moment, the celebration seems to stretch across time itself. Musicians from different eras and cultures appear among the dancers. Performers from the distant past and others from the future, all moving to the same rhythm. For a brief moment, the juke joint feels like a place where time no longer matters, where the past, present, and future gather together in a single room through the power of music. But that same music travels beyond the walls of the building, reaching someone who should never have heard it. Drawn by the music, Remick approaches the juke joint. With him are Bert and Joan. At the door, Cornbread stops them.
How may I help you folks?
Oh, we heard tale of a party. Drink, food, blues music, and the like.
You did?
Remick and his companions politely introduce themselves as traveling musicians and ask if they can join the celebration. They even offer to perform for the crowd. Hearing the commotion, the twins come over to see what's going on. As Remick speaks, Smoke immediately senses that something isn't right. The strangers appear friendly, but there's something unnatural about their behavior. Despite their polite offer, the twins refuse to let them inside.
You don't need to do that, sir. We'll be on our way. But we're gonna walk real slow.
just in case y'all change your mind.
Inside, the celebration continues. Drawn together by the excitement of the night, Sammy and Pearline slip away for a private moment. Meanwhile, Mary decides to step outside and speak with the strangers. When she speaks with Remick, his words feel strange, kind and understanding, yet unnervingly perceptive.
Well, what makes you say that?
'Cause you're in some deep, deep pain that money can't fix.
Mary grows uneasy as the conversation continues, and soon she notices Remick's eyes beginning to glow faintly red, while drool slips from the corner of his mouth. Realizing something is terribly wrong, she gets up and heads back toward the bar, but it's already too late. Back inside the juke joint, the celebration continues. Pearline is now on stage, performing a lively song as dancers fill the floor and the musicians keep the rhythm alive. Eventually, Mary returns to the juke joint, appearing completely normal. Thinking nothing of it, Cornbread lets her back inside. She moves through the room, smiling and enjoying the party unfolding around her. Soon, her attention turns to Stack. She approaches him and begins flirting. Before long, Mary leads Stack away from the crowded floor and into a private room, where the two become intimate.
Baby, you drooling.
You want to?
At the same time, Cornbread briefly steps away from the door to relieve himself, leaving Delta Slim to watch the entrance. Soon, Cornbread begins to hear strange noises coming from the darkness.
Hey, fellowship of blood, fellowship of blood.
Inside the club, the music continues until a sudden fight breaks out among the patrons, leaving one man badly wounded. Smoke immediately orders Sammy to find Stack. Sammy heads to the private room and opens the door, only to find Stack and Mary in the middle of their intimate moment. Embarrassed, he quickly turns around and leaves. Frustrated, Smoke decides to get Stack himself, but when he enters the room, he discovers something horrifying. Stack lies on the floor, bleeding heavily, while Mary stands over him, her mouth covered in his blood. Smoke doesn't hesitate. He pulls out his gun and fires repeatedly into Mary's body. She collapses to the floor, but after a few seconds, she begins to laugh. Slowly, she rises back to her feet as if nothing happened.
We're gonna kill every last one of you.
Mary bolts from the room and escapes out of the pub into the night. In disbelief, Smoke rushes to his brother's side, desperately trying to stop the bleeding, but the wounds are too severe. Slowly, Stack dies in Smoke's arms. The celebration inside the juke joint comes to an abrupt end as Delta Slim urges the remaining patrons to leave the building. Devastated by the loss of his brother, Smoke demands to know what just happened, but no one has any answers. Annie points out that Mary survived multiple gunshots without dying, warning the others that they are dealing with something unnatural. She urges everyone to step away from Stack's body. After a moment, Smoke reluctantly agrees, and they lock Stack's body inside the room. Nearby, Grace quietly tells her husband Bo that they should leave. Bo agrees and steps outside to get the car. Just then, Cornbread returns to the door, where Delta Slim stops him and questions where he has been.
To go see a man about a dog, like I told you, yo, drunk. Turns out I need to take a shit, too.
Smoke angrily tells him that Stack is dead and that he should have been there. Cornbread apologizes and asks to be let inside. Annie steps forward, pointing out that Cornbread has come and gone all night without needing permission. So why ask now? Cornbread tries to brush it off, but Smoke listens to Annie and refuses to let him in. Frustrated, Cornbread asks for his payment instead. Smoke hesitates, but eventually reaches out with the money. Smoke barely manages to avoid Cornbread's bite before retreating back inside while Cornbread stops at the doorway. The tension inside rises even further when Stack's voice suddenly calls out from the locked room. He sounds confused and pleads with Smoke to let him out.
It was scary, and I'm doing much better now.
Annie quietly warns Smoke that whatever is behind that door is no longer his brother. Smoke hesitates, torn between grief and fear. But in the end, he refuses to open the door. Moments later, Stack violently bursts through the door. Annie reacts instantly, throwing a strange liquid at him that burns his skin and forces him to flee back outside.
Pickle garlic. These ain't haste.
They're vampires.
The revelation that they are dealing with vampires is difficult for everyone to believe, but Annie insists the stories she has heard are real. According to those tales, vampires are trapped souls cursed to live forever inside a dead body, who cannot enter a person's home without being invited. When Smoke asks if they can be turned back, Annie tells him the only mercy left is to free their souls. However, ordinary weapons will not work. According to Annie, the only things that can stop them are garlic, wooden stakes, silver, or the rising sun. Grace begins to panic, realizing her husband is still outside. She demands to leave, but the others convince her that stepping outside now would be suicide. Meanwhile, Sammy remembers his father's warning about blues music calling the devil, believing he may have somehow caused all of this. Delta Slim reassures him, promising that nothing will get past him to harm the young Sammy. In a quiet moment, Annie turns to Smoke and makes him promise that if she is bitten and turned, he will free her soul so she can see their daughter again in the afterlife. Just then, Pearline screams after discovering a body lying on the floor. Questions erupt immediately. What happened? And who bit him? But no one seems to know anything. Smoke and Sammy quickly drag the body outside, where they begin to hear strange sounds nearby. In the darkness, the vampires, now numbering in the dozens, have gathered. Led by Remick, they sing and play music together, creating a sinister performance that echoes through the night. Back inside, the sudden appearance of the body causes suspicion to spread among the survivors. Annie wants to make sure none of them have been turned. To test them, she makes everyone eat a clove of garlic. Everyone complies without hesitation, except Pearline.
This is ridiculous.
Smoke, put the gun down. Shut up. Eat, or I'll shoot.
Eventually, Pearline eats the garlic too, and nothing happens. It becomes clear that none of them have turned. Smoke inspects the puddle where the body was found and realizes it isn't blood. At that moment, the man they dragged outside begins pounding on the door, begging to be let back in. Before Smoke can let him in, Cornbread suddenly lunges forward and bites him. Just then, Bo approaches the door and tells Grace he brought the car. But the way he acts makes it clear he's one of the vampires now. Then Remick appears at the door. His calm demeanor has shifted into something colder and more determined. He tells Grace she has two choices. Either invite them inside, or they will go into town and visit her daughter, Lisa. Grace breaks down, terrified.
You're the devil, ain't you?
Sammy.
Remick then turns his attention to Sammy. He explains that Sammy's music, his rare, almost supernatural talent, is what drew them here in the first place. Remick offers a deal. If Sammy joins them, everyone else will be left alone. For a moment, Sammy considers stepping outside, but the others quickly stop him. Remick continues speaking, explaining that he has no personal conflict with Smoke or the others. The real danger, he claims, is still coming.
You built something here tonight, and it was beautiful, but it was built on a lie.
Hogwood, the man who sold them the property, is not just a landowner. He is a high-ranking leader of the Ku Klux Klan. The sale of the sawmill was part of a trap designed to gather the town's black community in one place, so the Klan could slaughter them all. Remick explains that he knows this because Bert, the man he turned earlier, is Hogwood's nephew. Even Stack, now a vampire, appears at the doorway, confirming what Remick has said.
This wasn't no juke joint, no club. This here is a slaughterhouse.
Unlike the Klansmen, Remick claims he has no interest in race or hatred. All he wants is for them to join him willingly, without unnecessary bloodshed. Stack steps forward, trying to persuade his brother to join them.
This is the way. Together. Forever.
No.
Close the door.
Inside the juke joint, panic spreads. Smoke struggles to think of a plan, but Grace becomes desperate. Her daughter is still in town, and she cannot wait any longer. Outside, the vampires slowly surround the building, their eerie singing burrowing through the walls. Finally, in a moment of rage and desperation, Grace shouts the one thing the vampires have been waiting for.
Come on in, you motherfucker!
permission to enter. The survivors quickly grab whatever weapons they can and prepare for what's coming. Slowly, the door opens, and the horde of vampires walks inside. Grace immediately throws a Molotov cocktail toward them, igniting a brutal fight. The battle is chaotic and violent. Bullets fly, wooden stakes pierce flesh, and fangs tear into skin. Grace is ultimately consumed by the flames as she takes down her husband, and Annie is caught off guard when Stack sinks his teeth into her neck. Knowing what will happen if she turns, Annie reminds Smoke of the promise he made earlier. Through tears, Smoke drives a wooden stake through her heart, freeing her soul before she can become one of them. As the situation grows hopeless, Delta Slim tells the others to escape upstairs while he holds the vampires back. For a time, he manages to slow them down, but eventually, he is overwhelmed. Upstairs, Remick and Stack ambush the survivors. Before anyone can react, Remick bites Perline on the neck, sealing her fate as well. Sammy is devastated, but both Perline and Smoke shout for him to run outside toward the sunrise. Reluctantly, Sammy obeys, but he does not get far before Remick catches up to him and slashes his face. All the remaining vampires gather to watch as Remick grabs Sammy and begins his monologue.
We are earth and beast and God. We are woman and man. We are connected, you and I, to everything.
Sammy's strike against Remick sends pain through the others, but it isn't enough. Inside, Smoke and Stack engage in a brutal fight. The brothers are evenly matched, but eventually Stack gains the upper hand and prepares to bite Smoke, but he can't. The mojo bag Annie once gave Smoke repels dark forces, keeping Stack from biting him. Smoke seizes the opportunity and turns the fight around, ready to kill his brother. But he hesitates. Outside, the situation looks grim for Sammy, with Remick mere moments away from biting him when something unexpected happens.
We will make beautiful music together.
Smoke suddenly appears behind Remick and drives a wooden stake through him. The pain ripples through every vampire he created. At that moment, the morning sun finally rises. Smoke and Sammy watch as one by one, the vampires burst into flames and collapse. Even Remick falls before the rising sun, disappearing in a final burst of fire. Afterward, the two share an emotional goodbye. Sammy returns to the church where it all began, while Smoke sits outside the juke joint, thinking of all the good people who brought it to life. He remembers Remick's warning that Hogwood and his clan are still coming and begins preparing for one final battle. Soon enough, Hogwood and his men arrive, ready to turn the juke joint into a massacre.
Grand opening, grand closing. Let's do it. Open it up.
But to their surprise, Smoke strikes first, unleashing a relentless machine gun barrage. Caught completely off guard, the clansmen fall one by one. Still, amidst the chaos, Smoke is shot, but he keeps pushing forward until it's just him and Hogwood left.
Listen, I got money, huh?
Badly wounded, Smoke sits down for a cigarette. In that quiet moment, he sees a beautiful vision of Annie and their young daughter, and knows that soon he will join them in the afterlife. 60 years later, an elderly Sammy, now a legendary blues musician, sits alone in a bar after a performance. Two familiar faces approach him, Stack and Mary. Neither of them has aged a day.
Oh. I guess I was one person he just couldn't kill. He made me promise to stay away from you, let you live out your life.
Stack explains that he promised Smoke he would stay away from Sammy, but he has come now because Sammy's life is nearing its end. He offers to turn him into a vampire so he can continue playing music forever. Sammy politely refuses. He says he has already seen enough of the world. For one final time, Stack and Mary sit and listen as Sammy plays a song just for them.
Traveling, I don't know why in the hell am I here.
As they prepare to leave, Sammy stops them and admits that despite the nightmares he still has about that night, the hours before everything went wrong were the best moments of his life.
Was it like that for you?
No doubt about it.
Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Catch you in the next one.